The Detroit Pistons are 3 games into the regular season, sitting at 1-2. And before we get to the game on Tuesday against the Washington Wizards, let's talk about some good and bad trends that we've seen relatively early, obviously, through 3 games from the Pistons that either need to stay the same or need to change as we go on through the season. We're going to talk about that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Eddie Johnson with 1 second to go.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. Or you can leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com. Use promo code Locked On. So the Pistons are 3 games into their season. It's incredibly early. And listen, 3 games is an insanely tiny sample size to judge anything off of. So that's why I know the last podcast we had, I ranted about how the Pistons got punked the last 2 games. I think that's deserved because you shouldn't be getting punked anytime. But looking at percentages and points per game and shots and all that, through 3 games to start the season off for a very young team that's trying to gel together, trying to figure out how to play together, it's incredibly hard to take away those kind of things. But this is a daily podcast, and we're going to look at some of the good and bad trends that we're seeing very early on, like extremely early on, and these may change moving forward. Hopefully the bad ones change. Hopefully the good ones stay the same. But we got to talk about it before the game against the Washington Wizards. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So I have a lot of good ones. I have a lot of bad ones too. I have a ton here. So I actually want to start off with this one's going to be a bad one. I want to start off with the Pistons' defensive rating being 27th in the entire NBA. So I feel like I've talked about the defense more than I've ever talked about defense on this podcast, like the last month or so. But the Pistons' defense very well could be one of the worst defenses in the entire NBA. It's been one of the worst defenses in the NBA, but I don't know if this actually does change throughout the season. However, what we've seen thus far is a team that's incapable of switching everything like they sound like they really want to do, incapable of really consistently executing a different scheme, whether that be drop, hedge, whatever scheme that is. They have a lot of miscommunication. They don't talk very much. I hope the return of Livers helps that out a ton because he's an incredible team defender and talks a lot. But yeah, the defense has been awful. Switching everything has gotten a lot of people into foul trouble. They foul a lot. And they just don't have that many good defenders on this team to begin with. So I don't know if this is going to change. Their defensive rating right now is 117.9, which is putrid. It's very bad. They need to find a way to become a better defensive team. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't like the switch everything defense because I feel like that creates a lot of mismatches. I think they should continue to go with the drop coverage with Duren and eventually when Bagley gets back. And I've seen them do it a little bit with Stu as well. But I think they should try to stick with that because I think that has the best chance of becoming something if you can get everybody on the same page. That's the biggest problem I'm seeing with them defensively. Yes, they have terrible defenders. They don't have very many good ones. But to add on top of that, communication has been awful. They're not communicating with each other. When they do switch, they're not constantly switching. One person thinks they're switching, the next person doesn't. So now you got a wide open 3. It's very tough. So guys got to talk. They got to communicate. And I think they should continue to try this drop coverage. I think it has a better chance of succeeding than to switch everything defense. But that's on Dwayne Casey to find out. I don't envy being in his position for that. It's going to be tough trying to get this team to be a good defensive team this year. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. It's just the first 3 games. But this one right here is one of the main ones that I don't know if it's going to change throughout the season. I don't see a future where it really gets a lot better. Maybe a little bit better, but I don't see the future where it gets a ton better. Maybe I'm wrong, but we're going to be watching for that. It's a trend that needs to change for the Pistons this season. All right, let's go ahead and go with the good one. In this one, you'd think that this would contribute to the defensive rating being so bad, but actually it isn't. the Pistons aren't turning the ball over very much. So far, they're tied 9th in the entire NBA in turnovers a game. Now, again, it's 3 games, but this is the whole point of the podcast. This podcast episode is very early trends. So far, the Pistons are not turning the ball over an insane amount. They're turning it over 14 times a game. That's tied for 9th in the NBA. Now, is that going to go up? Is it going to go down? I think it'll probably start to go up a little bit more because you got a lot of young ball handlers with Cade, Ivey, Killian, etc. Handling the rock, and usually with that comes a lot of turnovers. But I've liked the fact through 3 games they've actually done a good job of keeping the turnovers down. I believe Killian only has 1 turnover on the entire season. That's really nice to hear. And obviously Cade and Jaden Ivey and the rest of the team's doing a really good job to keep the turnover number down. And I actually think what makes it look or sound even better is the fact the Pistons are playing a lot faster this year. They're playing a lot faster. They're playing in transition a ton. They're playing in fast break a ton. Even in semi-transition, even after made buckets, I feel like they're trying to get into their offense a lot quicker. I feel like just overall they're playing a lot faster. And usually what comes with that is a lot of sloppy play, is a lot of turnovers, especially with young ball handlers. And I don't think they've actually been too awful with that. I think they've actually been okay. I think they've done a decent job of taking care of the ball in transition, of taking care of the ball while playing fast. Now, do they have some bad turnovers every now and then so far through 3 games when they play fast? Yes. In this last game against the Pacers, there was a 30-second sequence when both teams took awful shot, turnover in a matter of 30 seconds. That was one of the bad ones. But I think overall through 3 games, with the team that's playing that fast, with the team that's going to look like they're going to continue to play that fast, I think it's good to see that they're not turning the ball over absolutely through the roof, especially with Cade and what he struggled with turnover-wise last year, and having him and Jaden Ivey in the backcourt operating with the ball in their hands. I think that's a really good thing to see through 3 games. Hopefully that's a good trend that continues to happen throughout the season. I'm sure some games it's going to spike up a lot. It's going to happen, but I hope this is a trend that continues throughout the whole season, that the Pistons hover around the middle of the NBA with turnovers. Don't want to see them in the bottom third. Don't want to see them in the bottom 10. Let's try to hover around the middle, especially with how fast they go. I think that would be a good outcome for the Pistons. That's a good trend that I want to see continue. When we come back, we have some good ones and we have some bad trends that we're going to get back to. One of them involves Cade Cunningham. One of them involves rookie Jaden Ivey. And another one involves a few third-year players. We'll talk about all of that when we come back. But first, I got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, PrizePicks. And let me just tell you guys something real quick. Let's take, for example, today. There's NBA games on, there's NFL games on. Let's say the Pistons are playing same time as the Lions, or even a little bit later after the Lions. Let's say the Lions play at 1, the Pistons are playing at 7:30. I want to make myself an entry. And I go ahead and take the over on Jared Goff's passing yards. I take the over on DeAndre Swift's rushing yards. But then I also want to take the over on Cade Cunningham's points. And I want to take the over on Jaden Ivey's points. I want to put it all into the same entry. You can do something like that at PrizePicks. And that's one of my favorite reasons why I use PrizePicks. You can pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, that's what you're taking the chance on. You can win up to 10 times on your money on any single entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you watch. This includes NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, and more. And that right there was a mouthful itself. I'm running out of breath over here. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's really that easy. It's safe and fast withdrawals, currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. So go download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100 at prizepicks.com. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. All right, let's get back to some of these trends that we've seen very early through 3 games that very well could completely flip in a week from now. Very well could flip in a week from now, but that's the whole point of it being very early trends we're looking at. All right, so let's talk about Jaden Ivey's assertiveness. That right there is a good trend that I think is going to carry out through the entire season. And I think it's something that's going to do the Pistons a lot of favors throughout the year and however long he's with the Pistons, whether that be 10 years, 8+ years, 10+ years, 12+ years, however long he's here. His assertiveness is going to do wonders for them. And the fact that he's so assertive already as a rookie, I think is fantastic to see. And when I say assertiveness, I mean the moment doesn't look too bright for him. The NBA lights don't look too bright for him. Now, whether he's playing well, missing shots, making shots, doesn't matter. That's a different conversation. But the fact that he's willing to go out there and try things, he's willing to go out there immediately, not be scared to ask for the ball in transition, not to be scared to take the ball off the rim on a rebound and go coast to coast, not scared to demand for the ball from Stu when he gets a defensive rebound over Cade, who's on the other side asking for the ball. He wants the ball in his hands and he wants to go take off in transition. In half court, he's asserting his athleticism. He's asserting his explosiveness in the half court. He's doing it in the fast break too. Everything that he can do, all of his positives, he's leaving that imprint on the game so far through 3 games. Now, I think game 2, he didn't play that well. I thought game 2, his stats looked a little bit better, but I don't think anyone played well in game 2 besides Sadiq. So my point is, though, even in a game where I don't feel like he played very well in game 2, game 1, game 2, game 3, his imprint is left on the game. You walk away from that game saying, yeah, Jaden Ivey made sure we knew he was there. Jaden Ivey really showed us what he is. Other teams are watching the Pistons when you go against them, and they're saying, yeah, Jaden Ivey, we felt his presence. And it's because he's extremely assertive as a rookie already in the first 3 games, and that's an extremely good trend to see. I feel like that will continue throughout the season. This isn't one of those ones I don't know if it's going to keep going. It may go down. No, I think this is something you're going to see from Jaden Ivey most of the time, night in and night out from him. That's the type of player he is. I think it will do Pistons wonders for years and years to come. So I love seeing that from him. The fact that it didn't take him long at all. Not even a little bit of time. Instantly, he came in wanting to do something, wanting to prove himself, wanting to show that he's going to have this ball in his hands. He's going to do stuff with it instantly. I love seeing that. His confidence is through the roof. All right, so a bad trend that needs to stop or needs to go the other direction is Cade Cunningham's efficiency. Now, this is something that's been the talk of the entire offseason. And again, we are only 3 games in. Only 3 games in. Extremely early, but we're just going very early projections, very early, or not projections, very early trends. So don't think this is some prediction on the rest of the year or he's not going to turn this around. It's just very early trends. So through 3 games, he's still struggling with his efficiency. He's shooting 39% from the field, 35% from deep. He's shooting 17 times a game and only making 6 of those shots a game. And he's not getting to the free throw line very much, which, by the way, will be a trend we talk about a little bit later. His efficiency has to go up. This is something that he's going to be spending this entire season and the rest of his career trying to do, is to be efficient from the floor. We know he can get the numbers. We know he can get rebounds. We know he can create for his teammates. We know he can score the ball. He's right now he's averaging 18.3 points a game. But if he wants to get to that 21 points per game, if he wants to get to 24 points per game, if he wants to get to 25 plus, he has to become more efficient, and he's struggling to do that again out the gate this year. Now, it could very well be that he's just a slow starter. That could be it. Or it could just simply be he's going through a rough stretch through 3 games right now. However, I see a trend that's going on with Cade, and we talked about it a little bit on the last podcast with Bryce from Pistons Pulse. I'm going to be interested to see how he tries to reverse this trend, because he was at his best last year when he was getting to the basket. He was at his best last year when he had a lob threat, and he was putting and using his pressure, or using his body to put pressure, I should say, on the rim consistently, using his body, his length, his touch, and his ability to finish with both hands around the rim. He was using that and just destroying defenses over the last few months of the season. That's where he really took off. This year, he's shooting close to 7 threes a game right now through 3 games. And what I'm seeing in almost every game, and it's something the Pistons are just going to have to deal with because this is what they bought into, this is what they want to see. He's playing a lot of his minutes with Isaiah Stewart, and Isaiah Stewart's guy is not respecting him from deep and is forcing Cade in pick and roll games. They're playing drop coverage against Cade. Guy's going over the top, tries to cut off that pull-up, and the drop coverage guy, or the guy in drop, is pushing Cade out from the rim, and Cade's having to settle for pull-up jumpers from mid-range. he's settling for a lot of those. Now, you want that to eventually become part of his game where he can hit some midi pull-ups, but you don't want midi pull-ups to be the steady diet of your offensive arsenal. You don't want that to be the case. And right now, it feels like, at least from what I've seen so far, teams are pushing Cade farther and farther from the basket because they're not respecting Stu and pick and roll. They're not respecting his outside shot. And there was a perfect play against the Pacers this past game when Cade gave, I believe, Halliburton a crossover to the left, then span to the right, beat Halliburton really nice with a good move. Should have had a layup, but Stu's guy was not respecting him at all from beyond the arc. Stu was sitting in the corner. His guy sitting in the paint. He just swats Cade's right-hand layup attempt. And if you have somebody who is respected at the three-point arc, that's a layup. If you possibly even have a lob threat that can just sit in the dunker spot, Cade probably drops it off to him right there. But right now, teams are not respecting Stu. I don't think that's going to change this season. Whether Stu starts hitting shots or not, I don't think he's going to hit enough in this season at least to make defenses play him differently or play Cade differently. So I'm interested to see how Cade maneuvers around that. Is he going to be able to find a way to still consistently get to the rim and get easier looks for himself instead of having to settle for the shots the defenses are really wanting him to take? That's something that we need to watch for and monitor how that works if Dwayne Casey tries to throw some wrinkles into the offense to try to really help Cade out in that scenario or in those situations. But that's one of my main concerns through 3 games. What I'm seeing is that teams aren't respecting Stu, and it's in response to that, they're forcing Cade farther and farther from the basket and not letting him get all the way to the rim without having to take a shot over to a long defender, having to go through contact every single time. He's having a lot of tough shots, a lot of tough finishes right now because of it. So he needs to improve his efficiency. But with that, I think the coaching staff, or at least when Marvin Bagley gets back, hopefully that helps. Or maybe play Cade a little bit more with Jalen Duren. Try to stagger that a little bit more. Try to get him on the court with him so he can have a lob there, a dunker spot, something like that. He needs somebody, I feel like, to help take some of that pressure from the big guy away so he can get to the basket easier. And if they do help, he can just drop it off for a dunker spot guy. Right now, teams just aren't respecting Stu at all from beyond the arc. And that takes us to our next trend. So far through 3 games, Stu is only shooting 21% from deep. Again, it's insanely too early to make any kind of analysis on this or final evaluations or any evaluations, really. We're just talking about trends right now. And right now, Stu is not shooting very well from beyond the arc. He's shooting 21%. He is taking 5 threes a game, which I like the fact that he's taking these. He's not shying away from them. Teams are giving it to him, and when they are giving the open 3, he's taking it. I like the fact for his own development, not for the team, but for Stu's development individually, I like the fact that he's shooting with confidence, and even when he misses, he's not allowing that to make him hesitant to shoot. So I like that for his own development. However, for the team and the team's offense, Stu's going to have to shoot at a higher percentage than 21%. I expect it to go higher throughout the year. It's only 3 games. But through 3 games, he's not shooting it well, and it's really affecting the offense because, like I said, teams aren't respecting Stu. And even if Stu was shooting like 38%, I don't think teams would be respecting Stu still. They still would be wanting him to shoot it. The difference would be the Pistons would be able to live with it more because he's hitting some of them. It would be one of those things like, okay, defenses are okay with Stu taking that shot because they think it's a lower percentage shot than anything else they're going to give up. The Pistons can say, okay, they may be right, but he's hitting it at enough of a clip that we can live with it. It can be some kind of part of the offense that if they're going to give that to us, it's not something we want every time, but we can live with him taking this because he's making them a decent amount to where our offense shouldn't be destroyed by it. Right now, I feel like the offense is really being hurt by it. So, Stu, a lot of people believe in you, man. I think you can get above 21% just through 3 games. It's not going great to start the year off, but that doesn't mean it's not going to change next game. Next game, you could go 5 for 5, 4 for 4. And now he's probably going to be hovering around like 30, 35%. So one game could change it like that this early in the year. But I'm just saying, through 3 games, that's what you're seeing so far in the half-court offense. And that's what we talked about all offseason. Stu's going to have to hit these at a high clip to make it worth it for the Pistons offense. For his own development, just keep shooting them over and over. Having the confidence to take them, don't hesitate. And that will do good for him. For the team, they need him to start hitting a little bit more of these. I think he eventually will start to hit closer to around 34%, 33%, hopefully somewhere around there. But yeah, through 3 games, it's been a little bit of a struggle for Stu right now from beyond the arc. When we come back, got to tell you guys about a few more of these trends I'm seeing, a few more from some 3rd-year players, and something about free throws. We're going to talk about that when we come back. But first, I got to tell you guys about another one of our sponsors, BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every single game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for our sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport that's out there. The fastest and easiest way to check out on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, golf, NFL, and the NBA, college sports, you name it, it's over there at betonline.net. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about their trends in action today. And if you head to the basketball section, you will see that you have MVP odds, you got Sixth Man of the Year odds, championship odds, worst record in the league odds, all those kind of things you got over there at betonline.net. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about their trends in action today. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, listen to one of the podcast platforms, leave us a 5-star review. That's another great way to support the podcast. All right, let's get to another third-year player, and this is my guy, Killian Hayes. Horrible start to the year. Absolutely terrible start to the season. That is a terrible trend to see from Killian Hayes. He has shooting 16% from the field, 11% from deep, and his field goal attempts have went down each game. He started at 9. His first game, I liked his process. I thought he was taking good shots around the rim, getting to the rim, being aggressive, and his shot attempts have started to go down each game, lower and lower and lower. That's bad. You don't want to see that. Killian, it's only 3 games. I believe he can turn it around. I'm not giving up on him at all, even a little bit. I'm not even going to do any kind of evaluation. Just want to make this clear to you guys. I've said this a few times, but I'm going to hammer it in. I'm not going to make any real evaluations on any of the players on the team until around like the 2025 game mark. And then we'll make another evaluation, 2025 games after that. Then you'll make another evaluation, like 2025 games after that. And then you'll have like a seasons. But I'm going to probably do it in like 20 to 25 game evaluations. That's usually what coaches do. I think Dwayne Casey has spoke about that. He usually looks after 20-25 games. So by no means do I think anybody should be making hardcore evals after the first 3 games. I do think it's fair to point out trends and what you're seeing thus far, though. And what we're seeing thus far, though, is Killian struggling still to put the ball in the basket. And I've seen his aggressiveness. I've seen him try. The New York game really was just bad for everybody, and he was playing with such a bad lineup in the second unit that it was going to be tough for him to do anything. However, what you're wanting to see from him this year, you don't want to have those lineup excuses anymore. You don't want to hear that, oh, he's playing with a bad lineup, so it's really hurting him. You want to see him be able to go out there and do something no matter who's around him. And that's something he struggled with mightily in the New York Knicks game. In the Orlando game, I thought he actually played well outside scoring, but with scoring being what he needs to develop, it doesn't matter to me. If he's not being able to score, if he's shooting bad from the field, that weighs everything else down. So Orlando was okay. This past game against the Pacers, I just didn't like the fact that he wasn't taking shots. He wasn't trying to score. He wasn't taking enough shots. He wasn't trying to get to the rim as much or force things around the rim. He's not using his body to try to draw free throws. He has to do this. Oh, and he's only averaging 1 free throw a game. He has to try to get to the rim. He has to try to draw free throws. That's what he did the final 2 months of last season. He was getting to the rim consistently and drawing more free throws. He was finishing at a much higher rate. That's what he needs to do. I feel like he's settling a lot for a lot of step back threes and a lot of tough threes. I don't feel like he's gotten a lot of clean looks at all through 3 games. 3 of his 6 attempts per game are from beyond the arc. So Killian's having a bad start to the year, absolute horrible start to the year. I don't think it's going to last. I believe in him. I think he's going to turn around. I still believe he has more confidence in himself. I believe the improvements that I saw from him in preseason. I believe in it. But he has to start doing it. He has to. And he can't keep digging himself this early hole because it's going to be hard for him to come out of it. He needs to make sure that he doesn't let this bad start take away from his confidence, take away from his aggressiveness, because if he does that, it's over for him this year. It's going to be over for him. So I hope he comes out in this game against the Wizards, can still being attacking, getting to the rim, trying to score. And finally, with Killian Hayes, Dwayne Casey, I feel like, is waiting for him to have a really good game. I don't like what Dwayne Casey's doing with him, but I think I know what he's doing. He's not giving Killian Hayes a lot of minutes. He's averaging around 17 minutes a game. Dwayne is taking him out before Corey Joseph at the end of his shifts. If he's waiting for Killian to play well and start scoring and do stuff to where he earns to stay longer into the shift. And I think he should just let him play, but I think that's what he's doing. So I feel like once Killian starts to hit shots, if he goes out there and is aggressive and tries to score and is scoring and also creating for the bench, you'll see Killian start getting up towards like 24 minutes a game. But he wants Killian to earn it. And I can't blame him for it. I wouldn't do it, but I can't blame him for it. I would just let him play and try to play through mistakes and just go out there and do whatever. But I think that's what Casey's trying to do with them, and Killian has to break out of this trend that he's having right now of playing so poorly right now and shooting so badly. He has to turn it around. I think he will against the Wizards. I think he got it. Another third-year player that is struggling in the same areas that he's always struggled with is Sadiq Bay. Sadiq is having a fine start to the season. He's playing fine. He's shooting 44% from the field. He's shooting 33% from deep. He's averaging 18 points a game. He's getting to the free throw line 5.3 times a game through 3 games. He's had a fine start. But what you've seen through the 3 games already with Sadiq is that some of those struggles that he had last year in his rookie season are at least still there right now, and he's still trying to work through them. And he has to work through them. First thing is defense. He's been horrific defensively this year. He was that horrific last year defensively. He has to get better and more consistent and try harder defensively. Now, even with him trying harder, I'm not going to sit here and say he's not putting in any effort. Even if he tried his hardest, I don't know if he's just going to be a good defender. He just is too slow to guard guys on the perimeter. Benedict Mathurin was literally just getting anywhere he wanted to on him. But he has to be better defensively. He has to communicate better. I've seen him get caught in a few miscommunications on defense, whether that was his fault or he didn't, or he communicated with someone else and they didn't hear him. Either way, he has to do a better job of communicating. And offensively, he has to be more consistent with his outside shot, and he has to take better shots. He has to move the ball. He has to make quicker decisions like he did when he started to play better last year. He started making quicker decisions. He has to stop taking these tough shots around the rim. He has to start making better decisions with the ball in his hands, finding the open guy when defense commit to him. And for the love of God, Sadiq, when you get a kick out, shoot the ball. Stop with the sidestep pump fake. I can't remember the last time you made one. When a dude kicks out to you, just let the ball fly. Stop with the sidestepping. Stop with the pump fake sidestep. I can't remember the last time I saw the ball go in the net off of it. And it stops the whole flow of the offense when you do it. And it's a tougher shot to do, too. Just stop. You have to eliminate that somewhat from your game. You don't have to just never do it. But for the love of God, it can't be damn near every kick out, man. Every kick out cannot be the sidestep 3. Some of them just has to be catch and shoot. So, yeah, that's the trend that I need to see stop with Sadiq. I need him to start working on some of those weaknesses, start making better decisions, stop making the same decisions that I've seen him make last year. He has to be quicker with it, smarter, and stop with the sidestepping that we've seen from him for years now. He just catch and shoot the basketball, Sadiq. Shoot the ball. And then to end the podcast, this is a trend I really hope does not continue. And it was something they struggled with last year, and it's showing itself through 3 games. Free throw attempts by your stars. Now, Stu is averaging 7.3 free throw attempts a game. I don't think that's going to be sustainable. If you look at the way he's drawing free throws, I don't think that's something that's going to continue to happen. That's going to crash down soon. Sadiq is getting 5.3 free throws a game. I think that could somewhat stay the same because he was doing that at the last 50 games of last year. I believe we talked about that in the offseason. He was averaging around 4.6 free throws a game. And that was one of the biggest reasons why he became more efficient because he was being quicker and taking more shots at the rim and drawing free throws. So I think Sadiq actually could hover around this area still, and that will do great things for him. However, Cade and Jaden Ivey through 3 games are only averaging 3.3 and 3.7 free throws a game. Now, Jaden Ivey's only 3 games in his rookie career, and we expect Jaden Ivey to draw a lot of free throws. He's not getting the respect from officials as much right now as I thought he would, which is shocking. Hopefully, he draws more free throws. But with Cade, last year, it was a huge issue for him all year. And through the first 3 games of this year, he's still not getting to the free throw line enough for me. I need to see him hovering around 5 free throw attempts a game, between 5 and 6 free throw attempts a game for him to be a better player and be more efficient and get closer to that 24, 21 points per game that a lot of people predicted from him before the season. He has to get to the free throw line more. But like we mentioned in the first segment with Cade, A lot of that has to do with the fact that defenses are pushing him out. He's not getting to the rim as much. They're pushing him up and forcing him into pull-up jumpers, and Cade is taking the pull-up jumpers. And this is going to be a teaching moment for those of you who didn't play basketball growing up, who maybe didn't play against the drop coverage growing up in high school, or had to play drop coverage, or just watch the game as much and don't really know what drop coverage is forcing teams to do and what they want you to do when you play against drop coverage. Everyone always says this, and this is what we're going to end the podcast off with. I just wanted to tell you guys. When a team plays drop coverage against you, they want you to take pull-ups. That's what they're wanting you to do. They want you to take pull-ups, and they want you to take floaters. That's the whole purpose of drop coverage. They have a guy going over the screen behind you. It's going to make it tough for you to take a pull-up three. A pull-up three is not what they want. It's supposed to take that away. Now, if you're Steph Curry or someone like that, like Dame, you can't play drop coverage because even with the guy coming around his back, he's still just going to pull up. Usually a guy coming around the back going over the screen, that's enough to stop you from pulling up a three, unless you're Steph and Dame. But either way, takes away the pull-up threes, and they welcome you to take pull-up jumpers and floaters. And the worst thing you can do against drop coverage, a lot of people believe, and now if you have someone like, I said this a few years ago when the Pistons had D Rose. D Rose is a really good floater. So does Reggie Jackson. He had a really good floater. So if they want to settle for floaters against drop coverage, they probably could be way more successful at it than other teams. If teams want to play drop coverage, again, like I just said, another example like Steph or Kawhi Leonard or anything, if they want to take pull-up middies, that's a successful enough shot for them that they can take that consistently and teams will live by it. But that's what they want you to take, because the higher percentage shots in basketball are shots at the rim and shots from behind the arc. And what does drop coverage take away? The guy sitting at the rim. You can't just go to the rim because he's sitting there waiting for you. And pull up threes because you're coming off the screen with the guy going over. So they're trying to force you into taking the most inefficient shots of the game of basketball, which is the pull-up long two. And right now, it's going to be hard for Cade. Cade needs to figure out how to work around it. But right now, he's being too accepting of what the defense is wanting him to do. He's falling into their trap a little bit too much of wanting to take that pull-up jumper, of wanting to take those floaters, of wanting to take the pull-up twos, the long twos. That's what they want him to take. They don't believe he's going to hit them at a high enough rate. He's probably not. It's a tough shot. It's the worst shot in the game, a long two. And right now, he's buying into that too much. He's accepting it too much. I need to see him try to find a way, despite the fact that Stu's guy is disrespecting him and coming to the paint. I need to see Cade to try to find a way to get to the rim still and draw fouls around the rim. He has to do that because settling for the shots that they're giving him and wanting him to take, it's going to be tough for him to be efficient and have a successful year. So that was just a little teaching moment about drop coverage, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Cade, but I'm really interested to see how he goes against it. I have to assume the coaching staff is telling him exactly what I just said, that you don't be too accepting of what the defense is just letting you take, because when each time he takes that shot, the defense is taking it as a win. He'll may make some, but every time he takes it, the defense is saying they won that possession. So just be more aggressive and force the defense. Don't let the defense force you into something. Force the defense into taking whatever you want to give them. So that was my ending rant of the podcast. I didn't want the podcast to go this long, but I got into a little teaching coup brain real quick right there. Appreciate you guys, though. That's all I've got for today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on our podcast platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And to the next podcast, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe, go Pistons, and peace out, everybody.